Hello YouTube friends, this is Fossilsaurus coming at you with something that looks very just bleh, but in actuality is pretty amazing. These, by the way, were early constructs of what I was going to have my display like, because I got a bunch of those and they just happened to so perfectly fit in there. And a lot of the things I got early on, like these are marine reptile bones with predation marks on them, which is why I got them. And they all just happened to fit perfectly in there. And so did the mosasaur too. So it all seemed to work out great. That's of course not how I'm doing it indefinitely, but in the meantime, like, I am storing things like this. In question though, we are going for this. I have quite a few of these, by the way. Some of them have these squares that have slots for things. Some don't. Some are just large. I showed you. You saw another one when I did my Megalodon video. That it was just one big open plane that I had full of things. Let me get a little bit closer for this guy. This guy right here. Okay. Now, since we're so close, I know what's going to happen is at some point in the video I'm going to start, like, doing this or something like that, because of the way the somehow I still have just not gotten used to where the focus of the camera is, because the camera holder blocks half the screen. So I have to keep in mind that I can't just center this with the screen itself. I have to center it with the camera itself, which for some reason I don't know why it just cannot sink in. So and there's been times where I'll sit here for like a minute or two talking about something and like you can't see it and it's embarrassing. So anyway, I will, as always, do my best. If it's too bad, I'll just redo the video, of course. But this, there's just a dab of some putty that's holding it down there. Nothing major. If I'm gentle, I believe I can just kind of unroll it off pretty well. If I wanted to, I could easily clean that off. But in this case, it doesn't really matter, and the time it would take, bleh, whatever. Pretty boring looking, right? Well, this is a section of leedsichthys, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. It, of course, I was introduced to it, of course, through the BBC documentary, and I feel silly saying, like, whatever I see on TV is what I like. It's not, I mean, it's not just like that. It's whatever I see on TV that I think is awesome. I like, so it's not like just like anything on TV I'll go for. But this, I mean, the largest fish ever. Oh, come on. I mean, fish is my, there's nothing I like. My biggest hobby in the world is fish. So the biggest fish, I mean, come on. Now, this is a fin ray. If think about any fish. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, just look at a picture of any fish, like a goldfish, a tetrafish, swordfish, not shark. But every fin, including the tail, has lines that go from the base of it all the way to the tips. Those are called the rays, the fin rays. Now this is a fin ray from a leedsichthys. Look at the size of, in the pictures that you're looking at, look at the size of how minuscule, like they look like they're not even strong enough, like big enough to where they could be strong enough to be broken. Like if you bent them, folded them, they would just like flat back because they're so loose and thin. It looks like only the like swordfish and the biggest things you could actually snap them. And you could see, of course, this is big enough you could snap, but even the swordfish ones, I mean, they don't have rays as big as this. This is not a super large leedsichthys. It's hard to tell because I can't tell you if it's the tail, the pectoral fin, dorsal fin, what. And they generally are going to have very similar sizes, but the longer the ray is, the thinner it gets towards the end. So if this is like the end of the tail fin, end of the pectoral fin, it's going to be from a bigger fish than if this was just from the start of something, of one of the fins. Now, leedsichthys, they're from Middle Jurassic, 168 million years ago-ish. It's like, I believe, 152 to 169 million years. So, good chunk of time. Not a huge amount of time. I mean, it's a long amount of time period, but in the scheme of things, of course they were definitely longer than that, because we have not found, there's no way we've found the oldest or the youngest specimens. The same rule that goes with length, where every individual that we've ever found is going to be within the average range for size, it applies to time too. Every individual that we ever find is going to be within the average time frame as well. The numbers dealing with how much different, it's impossible to say. Time-wise, I've actually never given it thought until right now, the fact that it includes time, not just size. So, but I want to say time, the time span might be a shorter difference than the difference between size, like the percentage of additional size or percentage of additional time. I don't know. The numbers are impossible. It's impossible to figure out. The best we can do, there's no modern way to do it with the time, but size-wise, we can look at modern animals and judge by that, and we can try and get a very good idea, but it is not going to be an exact thing. There's no way to do get exact numbers. Anyway, now these guys, absolutely awesome, largest fish that ever lived. When they were first found, I believe they were only thought to be like 30-some meters, like nothing spectacular. I mean, I'm sorry, 20-some meters. And it's definitely a big fish, but it's not anything super massive. You know, I'm trying, that doesn't seem right. I want to say that they were thought to get like 39 feet, maybe. Yeah, and I'm doing meters instead of feet. They were thought to get like 39 feet, which is a big fish, but it's not a record holder by any means. Then either after some new studies, or just after some really unintelligent artistic licensing from the BBC or the writers, they changed it and claimed that it got like something like 80 to 90 feet long, which, God, that would be so awesome, but not even close. Now the general assumption is that it's in the 59 to in the 60s. So that would put it up there with seemingly above whale sharks, above probably megalodons, especially if you take into consideration the size difference that I was talking about, how the 59 to maybe 65 foot measurement of these guys is just a mere average sized one. So they had to have gotten like 70 plus, 75 plus feet, just based on statistics. Again, the numbers are up for grabs. You can't, I mean, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air because there's no way to figure out exact numbers. But I think it's a reasonable assumption, especially when you look at human beings and you look at the estimates and the comparative sizes for human beings. It's things like the numbers I'm using are very, very reasonable numbers. So anyway, I'm tangenting a little bit. I don't know if that's a word, tangenting. So these guys, they didn't live a super long amount of time, but they're relatives of giant filter feeding pachycormids, lived over 100 million years. Now, the other ones weren't as big, but they were still massive, massive animals. Some of the largest ones in the sea, maybe the largest fish at the time. Now, the name of the fish is Leedsichthys problematicus, and that is because there are so many problems with the skeletons. So many of the skeletons are piecemeal, where you'll find a beautiful, beautiful entire tail, but that's it. Or usually the parts that they find are nice sections, but they are just sections. Of course, they will also find like a single ray here and there. It's not like for some reason these guys only fossilize in little beautiful chunks or nothing like that, but that does happen. And one of the problems with these guys is that for whatever reason, parts like their spinal cord, their vertebrae, are cartilaginous, which is very strange. And not entirely, but they don't fully ossify. And ossify means become hard with cartilage. And as they grow and get bigger, the body absorbs some of the calcium, so they tend to deossify. So it really, really plays havoc with the information that we can find and that we can get from them. It's such a cool fish, but as the name says, pain in the ass. There's so much to know about them. They could have gotten so much bigger than what we thought. They could have reached the BBC size of over 90 feet. It's definitely possible, because we know individuals that are within the average, we don't know how big the average is. The average itself could go from 40 feet up to 70 feet or something, or up to 80 feet. That could be the average. We just don't know what the average is anyway. Even though we know everything that we find is within the average, we don't know the limit of the averages, and therefore we don't even know where to begin stretching the size based on statistics. So who knows how big these guys could have gotten. The only reason we know what they look like is because of the smaller specimens, but smaller specimens also, because they tend to have ossified better, but also close relatives, which seemingly either did not share the same problematicus as leedsichthys, or maybe they just did things slower, so maybe the deossification happened much slower, or maybe they just didn't. Maybe they just ossified normally like the rest of the bones. I forgot to mention, part of the skull is an area that we don't have much of because it did not solidify well enough, which is very strange because the skulls are usually very very thick, very dense areas. We do know, of course, clearly they were filter feeders just because of the size and so on, and we know that from the relatives and so on. But we do have very beautiful gill rakers from them, which show, of course, that they were filter feeders. So we do actually surprisingly know a good amount about them despite the good amount of problems that we have with them. Very sadly, I don't think we're making very much headway with them because they're not like top contender on what's being found. So I just don't know how much is being found, how much is being learned. From what I can see, there doesn't seem to be much new information coming out. So, but you never know, there could be a paper being written right now that could come out at any moment that exposes a lot more information. So we can cross our fingers and we can hope. But not much more to be said about these guys, sadly, because of how cool they are and cool they were. And I'm really trying to focus on there right now, but there we go. Okay, so thank you so much for watching the video, especially since it's such a boring little piece, boring looking piece, though it is an amazing piece. You will not be finding these for sale. Very early on in my collecting, I came across this and bought it immediately, and for decades I have not come across hint, hair, hide, nothing about, no fossils, no anything. So I'm not expecting to ever come across another one, but I will sure jump on it if I do, if it's within my price range, of course. So thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time. If you like my videos, please like, please subscribe, please comment. Anything would be fantastic. It would make me very happy to hear from any of you in any of those ways. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see some kind of responses and see that you guys really appreciate and enjoy what I'm doing. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you in my next video.